So I really have come to realize I had gender dysphoria. I literally was just confused about my identity, I think just stemming from my appearance. And yeah, I started going to church a few months ago at a time when I was feeling very lost and confused and I needed some direction in my life. And I just walked into a Catholic church one day and sat at the back, listened to the priest deliver the service, spoke to the priest afterwards, and just started going back ever since. And that really helped me. It made me realize, all of this is pointless. What's the point? All this surgery, all these changes, I'm left with scars. It's not giving me fulfillment. It's not giving me happiness.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to get back to the real me. I'm born a biological male. I know you can't change your genders. I support everyone in their decision how they want to live.
Social media star Oli London, who has had over 30 cosmetic surgeries and was living as a transgender woman for 6 months, recently found God, as well as found his way of appreciating the man he was created to be. I'm Drea Humphrey with Rebel News, and today I sit down to interview Oli about his detransitioning story, as well as some messages he has for children who are experiencing gender dysphoria or questioning whether or not they have that. And I also speak to him about how he is being treated or accepted by the trans community he was once a part of. All right, Oli London, the singer, the social media star. Thank you so much for being on Rebel News today.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure. And hi to everyone in Canada.
Well, you've been through a lot recently. You've had a lot of achievements over time. And more recently, you've gone through a lot physically, emotionally, and spiritually. You are a man who is detransitioning. Why don't you tell us, we'll start with what made you get to that path right now that you're on today?
So for the last 6 months, I became trans, and that really stemmed from identity issues I've had since I was a child. So now I'm back living to my biological self, back to being me, and trying to find the real me through God and through finding myself. But yeah, really, my journey began as a teenager. When I would be at school, I would get bullied a lot for my appearance. I would just get a lot of abuse and nasty comments just about the way I looked. My face looked completely different back then, so it really knocked my self-esteem, it really knocked my confidence, and just made me feel bad every time I look in the mirror. So some days I would try and make myself be sick so I wouldn't have to go to school. I'd physically throw up so I would get a day off from school because I would just be scared people would tease me. And I'd have really bad skin problems like acne. I'd have redness all over my nose. So that's really where it began. So initially, I actually had my first surgery in South Korea in 2013, and I was living there for a year. And Korea is like the plastic surgery capital of the world.
Yeah.
You can't really avoid surgery there. It's so in your face. It's like so heavily advertised on billboards, on shop fronts, on television. All the K-pop idols look so perfect. So it's very tempting for anyone that goes to Korea. And it's just very accessible. So yeah, so I had my first surgery. I wanted to change my nose because that was the thing that I used to get bullied about the most. My nose was very, very big before. So yeah, I did my first surgery, changed the nose, and that was all I was planning. I was thinking, let me just get a nice nose and I will be happy. Mm-hmm. But what happened is the nose surgery went really, really wrong. I had a silicone implant and they actually put me under local anesthetic. When it should have been general anesthetic. So when they were actually cutting my nose up, I could hear like the chisel, I could hear the saw. It was like crazy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that was a bad experience. So then I had that surgery, it went wrong. So then I had to get a few more correctional surgeries. And then it kind of went from there. I kept thinking, I can self-improve. I can make myself look better. But still, I got to a point earlier this year where I've now had 32 surgeries and I wasn't happy. I was really, really unhappy. I'm thinking, maybe I feel like I'm trapped in the wrong body. Maybe I feel like I would look better as a woman or as a trans woman. So then I had facial feminization surgery, which included I had my forehead bones, my eyebrow bones shaved to make it more feminine. I had my hairline lowered. And, I'm absolutely covered in scars. But, so I then thought maybe I feel better looking like a woman. So I had the feminization. I had hair extensions. I started wearing dresses. I even went out in public to Cannes Film Festival on the red carpet. I wore a pink dress. And I just, I was thinking, is this the real me? And then I was thinking, I'm not happy. Why am I not finding happiness? So I really have come to realize I had gender dysphoria. I literally was just confused about my identity, I think just stemming from my appearance. And yeah, I started going to church a few months ago at a time when I was feeling very lost and confused and I needed some direction in my life. And I just walked into a Catholic church one day and sat at the back, listened to the priest deliver the service, spoke to the priest afterwards, and just started going back ever since. And that really helped me. It made me realize, all of this is pointless. What's the point? All this surgery, all these changes, I'm left with scars. It's not giving me fulfillment. It's not giving me happiness. Mm-hmm. I just need to get back to the real me. I'm born a biological male. I know you can't change your genders. I support everyone in their decision how they want to live. But, even when I was trans, I would always respect women. I wouldn't use the restrooms, the locker rooms with women. So it was just an identity struggle I had. But thankfully, I've, come out the other side. I'm trying to share my story to help teens, across North America that will be struggling with gender dysphoria.
Well, that's one of the reasons I reached out to you, or the main reason I reached out to you. At Rebel News, I've covered a lot of stories. I would say the other side of the story to children transitioning, and that includes parents and a lot of them who feel their child is suffering from rapid gender dysphoria, not something they've had their whole life, but something, I guess in some ways like yourself, where it just kind of came from something else that popped up later on. So, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. But before we get there, I'm just wondering, how are you being accepted? How were you accepted when you decided that you were going to be a trans woman versus how you're being accepted now as a detransitioning man?
Well, it's very interesting. Like I did describe on Twitter, the trans movement as a cult, because it really is like a cult. So, as soon as you become trans and you announce you're trans, they're so accepting. They welcome you with loving arms. They celebrate you. They think you're a hero, you're a champion. So they give you all that kind of positive reinforcement, which again is what cults do. They bring someone in, they give you that, when you're in a vulnerable position, they give you that positive reinforcement. You join the cult. And then, when I realized it's just not for me, I just have gender dysphoria, I need to get back to myself. I shared that online because I thought maybe there's other kids, that might be struggling. Maybe I can help them. And the amount of abuse I got from the trans lobby was just horrific. I'm 32 years old. Unfortunately, I'm used to the abuse. I do TikTok, I do social media. I'm very used to it. But, imagine if you're a 16-year-old child.
Yeah.
And, there's many cases in America. There's a girl called Chloe Cho. She's detransitioned back to her biological self, and she was sharing on Twitter the DM she gets, the abuse she gets, the death threats she gets, thinking these are children in a vulnerable position. They are sharing a detransition and they are met with death threats, abuse, harassment, trying to silence and intimidate them. And I'm thinking, that just discourages people from detransitioning. That discourages people from talking about it. And, we should be having a dialogue, because this is, this is an abuse of children, and the trans movement, the trans cult is pushing these, like you said, rapid gender ideologies on kids, and it's changing them. So, I got a lot of abuse, but I got some beautiful messages on the other side from the Christian community, people across America and Canada, and I had a lot of parents saying, their kids have gender dysphoria, they need advice, they're really at a point where they're stuck, and, the teachers at school are telling their kids, without the parents knowing, they're telling their kids, oh, it's okay to change your gender. You should have puberty blockers. They're telling kids this. And, kids are so young. They're so impressionable. They just go along with whatever someone in authority tells them. So if a teacher tells them that's normal, if their classmates say that's normal, if TikTok stars like Dylan Mulvaney say it's normal, the kids go along with it. And, they don't realize the devastating consequences it has on their body and also their mental health.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you know this, but in Canada, there's also laws preventing what they call conversion therapy. But it also just means that if, someone decides that they possibly are not transgender and want to switch out of that, they can't really seek advice on that. Were you able to find advice in that area? Was it hard to do? Did you rely on your new church to do that? Or what happened there?
So there's really no resources out there to help people that want to detransition or want to get back to their biological self. There's no help out there whatsoever, because anyone that tries to help, anyone that speaks out, is silenced by the trans lobby. So which is very bad, because you have hundreds of thousands of kids in America alone that have gender dysphoria, and they've been clinically diagnosed with this from doctors. And, you know, they have no support. They have all the support in the world if they want to transition. They have access to hormone replacement therapy, puberty blockers. But if they want to detransition, there's absolutely no support. So it's very, very hard for a child to kind of find the help out there. And that's really, really why I wanted to speak up, because I'm thinking, you know, let me be a voice for these people. Let me help them come out and share their story. You know, I'm happy taking the abuse. You know, I'm so used to it. Unfortunately, I'm used to it because of my TikTok and Twitter and stuff. You know, I would rather take that abuse so they don't have to go through that. You know, if I can start the dialogue and, you know, start giving these kids an outreach where they can talk about their issues and talk about their struggles, you know, then I feel that's helping. But yeah, for me personally, it was there was no support out there. It was just going to church and, you know, meeting, you know, really nice Christians, you know, at the church. Everyone was very friendly, very welcoming, kind, real sense of community and a sense of belonging. The priest, you know, was very positive. And of course, the teachings of the Bible, you know, what Jesus used to do when he would cleanse the leper, when no one else would help the leper. You know, there's some really great teachings in there. So I feel that for me personally was enough to help me get through this, you know, but otherwise I would have just been lost. There's really no resources out there.
Wow. Now let's talk about what you think is sort of the main things that maybe parents or educators need to know when it comes to children who maybe feel they start questioning whether they're born in the wrong body. What do you think needs to happen in that initial stage?
Well, firstly, I mean, it's very normal for a child to, you know, experiment. Most children do. You know, you'll get a 5-year-old girl that wants to do boy things, you know, play soccer, go outside, you know, doing sports, and you'll get a boy that might want to play with Barbie dolls, which, you know, is a part of growing up. Some kids do that, you know, and then when they become an adult, they're absolutely happy as they were born, as their biological self. So it's just, you know, kids are kids. They like to learn things. They like to experiment. But, you know, the dangerous thing is when you have teachers and educators telling these kids that this is normal, that this changing your gender, having a surgery is totally normal. Changing your pronouns is normal, when it's really very abnormal. It's like it's like a kind of brainwashing. So, but the problem is that parents a lot of the time are cut out of the conversation. They don't even know what's being taught in the schools anymore. And when they try to, you know, challenge the school boards, challenge the school districts, they are kind of called transphobic. You know, sometimes they are removed from the school. So it's a very difficult conversation, but I would just say to parents, you know, just let the kids be kids, let them do what they want to do. If they start questioning their gender, you know, just tell them that, you know, just, you know, it's fine to experiment. It's fine to do these things, but, you know, just be yourself, you know, accept who you are born. You know, you were born a boy or you were born a girl. And it's fine if you want to play with a Barbie doll, that's absolutely fine. If you like the color pink and you're a boy, you know, go for it. But, you know, just reassure kids that it's just a phase, and, you know, as they get older, they'll start to accept themselves more. And, you know, you don't need to change anything, and don't listen to what other people might be telling you.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what the statistics show. Gender dysphoria was extremely rare. It's definitely on the rise, especially in Canada. And you kind of touched on some of the things that apply to my province, specifically in British Columbia. We have a curriculum called SOGI 123, which many parents attribute to their child's rapid gender dysphoria. And it's fluid. Teachers who are not psychologists are being taught to be gender affirming if there is any such sign that comes up. So we're in a new time. I almost call it experimental, because it's never happened before, where if a teacher hears a student say something like maybe they want to play with something more feminine in the class, they're supposed to affirm that as though perhaps they are questioning their sex. Thank you so much, Oli. Is there anything else that you really wanted to get across today for people to know?
You know, I would just say to all of the young people watching this, you know, just be happy with yourself. If you're feeling lost, talk to your parents, or even go to church, or just reach out to someone. But, you know, don't go under any drastic changes. You know, taking puberty blockers, HRT, having the double mastectomies, you know, it's not a good thing to do to your body, because, you know, people don't realize when someone transitions, they're on lifelong medications, they have a lot of health problems. Also, the suicide rate is pretty high. The depression rate is pretty high. So, you know, just having a surgery alone is not going to solve your problems. It's not going to make you feel happy suddenly. It's not a miracle cure. So just, you know, stay strong, hang in there, speak to people that can help you. And don't be influenced by, you know, people putting pressure on you. Just be who you're born to be. We're all God's children. Be who you're born to be, and don't, give into the social pressures out there.
Well, there you have it. Words of wisdom from Oli London. Thank you again for being on Rebel News.
Thank you. God bless.
At Rebel News, we don't back down from bringing you the other side of the story to what the legacy state-backed media ignores. And that includes covering some of the increasing amount of detransitioning stories like you just heard from Oli London. If you appreciate the independent journalism that we bring you at Rebel News, consider supporting our journalism and being the first to be in the know and have access to our exclusive content like documentaries by going and subscribing at rebelnewsplus.com. We appreciate your support.